Hey there, good morning. Welcome to the JeepSolid garage. So today we're going to be replacing the clock spring. We got the JK tucked in here in the shop. The airbag light is giving me issues coming on and off intermittently. Let me show you how to diagnose that real quick. Now this is on my 2012 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited Sahara, and this is actually a pretty frequent issue with these JKs as they're getting a little bit older. All right, let's go ahead and start it up, see if we can replicate the issue. So right now the airbag light is obviously on, but as we move the steering wheel, we have an intermittent connection issue. Okay, there we go. We got the light off now. And there we go, pop back on. Alrighty, I was having a little trouble replicating it there, but anyways, that's the issue some of these JKs have when your clock spring goes bad, and I'm highly suspicious that that's what it is, because it really comes and goes when you're turning the steering wheel. It'll like come on and off, and that's just the connection in there, the resistance on the squib 1 and squib 2. The resistance on those is fluctuating. It has a bad connection, so we're going to replace that clock spring to resolve our issue. And the other piece of data we have is off of our scan tool here. Let's go ahead and run a scan. We're hooked up to our OBD2 down there. Code B1B02. Driver airbag squib 1 circuit open. So with the symptoms I'm having and that error code, that's why I'm highly suspicious that it is that clock spring that we're going to be replacing. You can diagnose it specifically, but I don't have the ability to do that. You have to have an ohm meter and check the resistance on those squibs, which honestly, it was easier just to buy the clock spring, replace it, and that should resolve it. So let's do that. And because we're going to be working on the airbag, the electronics, you have to disconnect the battery. Now that that's disconnected, we can start removing the steering wheel. On each side, there is a little 10mm bolt. Now we can pull the airbag out and disconnect these two little squibs back here. Just gonna squeeze in on them and it pulls right out. And there's one more little connection right here. Disconnect that guy and our airbag is out. Now be very careful with your airbag. These things are like little bombs, so use whatever safety precautions you feel is necessary. Bottom line, be very gentle with it. So next we remove the steering wheel. There's our bolt right there. That's a 13mm. Now we're ready to use our steering wheel puller. We'll get it on each side here, pull this off. But before we do that, we want to take note of how this is positioned on here. There's a little tiny dot right there and up here. So we want to make sure we get those back in the exact same spot. So sometimes when I'm doing a job like this and I need to keep things in relation like that steering wheel, it's a good idea to take your phone and snap a couple pictures of what you're doing, just so you know how things go back together and exactly where they were. Here is our steering wheel puller and our new clock spring. I will be sure to include links for these in the description below. These are the tools and the things you're going to need to do this job. On our new clock spring here, here's our two connectors. And then you have this little tab right here. This holds the wound up ribbon inside of here. You got to leave that. Don't touch that. Don't pull that out until we have everything installed. Now we're setting up the steering wheel puller like this with the little feet going out, because that's where we're going to get the best bite onto the steering wheel. Now assembling it in the steering wheel, you just have to, because it's not quite wide enough to put it in straight, so you got to put one foot in at a time and then finish assembling it. Now these little feet will have a tendency to try to want to just slide out as you're putting pressure on it and pulling. So it's a good idea to take, I have like a little flat blade screwdriver here. I'm going to jam it in behind the feet, one on each side. And that'll just kind of help keep those feet locked in place so they can't back off each other and pull out. And as the steering wheel comes off, one more simple little plug. Just push it down, pop it right off. And that's why you have to have the feet pointing out. Because if you notice on the inside here, there's nothing to bite onto. It has to get its grip on the outside. So we are almost to the clock spring. Next we have to remove this plastic cover. Underneath down here there are 3 T20 bolts or little screws we got to take out. And it requires, like I said, one of these T20 little hex heads. And there's those 3 screws. One, number 2 is way up here. And number 3 is up here. And you have to have a really long handled T20 bit on here because this guy is way up in there. Got a little Tootsie helping me there. Alright, now we gotta take the whole clock spring and the levers off here, this whole mechanism, but it comes off fairly easy. There are 3, here's a T20 little screw right there, and then up on top, back behind here, there's one right down there, and one right down here. Let me see if I can show you those. On the driver's side here, down there, there's a little T20, there it is, a little T20 right back there. You don't need to undo these larger ones up here. And then the one on the other side, right there. So a little plug on the side here. Like I was holding it in. Disconnect that one, and then there's a couple others on the bottom. 1, 2, and number 3 up here at the top. So there we go, we got this black one over here, these 2 white ones on the bottom, and all these come off, you just depress them and slide them right out. They come out fairly easy once you push the little tab down, slide them right out. And we are almost there. So we just got to take the levers off the clock spring here. So on each side there's one little black screw, one on that side, and then one on the driver's side. Take those 2 guys off and the levers will come off. There we go, new clock spring is in place, all the wires here hooked back up, tucked in, down in there, we're good to go. Now we will plug these 4 connectors back in and mount it with those 3 screws. I'm double checking that I've got those little dots lined up just perfect how it was before. Let's put the steering wheel bolt back in. And we will torque it to 40 foot-pounds. And we're holding the steering wheel still as we're doing this. We don't want to put any unnecessary force on these little parts down there on the clock spring. Okay, now finally we can pull the little tab out of the clock spring here. Just pinch it down and it pulls right out. Then we can hook up our electrical. Now we can very carefully bring our bomb back in here and we'll hook this airbag back up. And our final 2 bolts on each side to hold the airbag in place. And yeah, this seems, you know, watching it, it seems kind of like a daunting task, but it's really not that bad. If you just go step by step, you know, it's really not that hard. Just one step at a time, being meticulous, careful with what you're doing. Actually, no problem. This job would take a couple hours. It's hard for me to judge with filming it, makes it take much longer. But if I wasn't filming it, yeah, easily done in 2 hours, probably less. Let's hook the battery back up. And we'll test it out. Horn works. Airbag light is off. And if this helped you out and you would like to become a member of the JeepSolid Garage, get some bonus material, behind the scenes footage, some other cool things, you can become a channel member. There's a join button linked below. So I think that'll resolve my issue. Like I said, fairly common issue with these JKs. So hopefully that'll help you guys out. Everything I used is linked in the description below. Thank you guys for watching and have a good day. Getting good at that.